calmly walks into a police station and confesses to what his own lawyer describes as a grotesque crime.
My belief is that when he left his home address, he had an intention to kill, but to kill anybody, not necessarily Bobby.
I would like to reassure the public that at this time we are not seeking anyone else in relation to this matter.
Disclaimer: all content in this video is for general educational purposes only.
She was just a regular girl standing at the bus stop, innocently waiting for a bus to take her to her destination. But little did she know that somewhere close by, an evil pair of eyes was watching her. An hour later, she was gone. Not a word, not a text, just gone without a trace. As her parents panicked and the authorities investigated, the same question was on everyone's minds. What happened to her? Where could she have gone? The answers to these questions surfaced a few days later, and they were answers that none of her family members were ready to face. This is the story of 18-year-old Bobby Ann McLeod and the harrowing events that occurred on November 20th, 2021. It all happened in the lively coastal town of Plymouth, in Great Britain. Bobby Ann McLeod lived there with her parents and her older brother Lee. By all reports and ramifications, Bobby was a beautiful, talented young lady who stayed out of trouble, enjoyed spending time with her friends, and was like any other average teenager. On top of all these, she also had a great relationship with her family. They had a bond like no other, and the love between them was palpable. Sadly, a tragic wedge would be thrown into their family dynamics, a wedge none of them saw coming. On November 20th, 2021, Bobby waved goodbye to her family as she always did. She told her father she loved him and that she would be back soon. She was supposed to be meeting her boyfriend and their other mutual friends downtown, and it shouldn't take too long. Her family waved her goodbye, and 18-year-old Bobbi-Anne left the house and walked down to the bus stop over at Sheepstore Road. She had walked this route 1,000 times before and was very familiar with it. It was highly unlikely that she would take a wrong turn or miss her way. Little did anyone know it would be the last time they ever saw or heard from her again. An hour and a half later, Bobbi-Anne's mother, Donna, decides to do a little check-in to find out how her daughter is doing, a mother's intuition perhaps. So she sends a text asking if Bobby had reached her destination, but there was no response. This was odd, Donna thought to herself, so after a few more minutes, she sent a follow-up text, and still Bobbi-Anne didn't respond. Regardless, she tried not to worry and gave excuses for her daughter. Perhaps Bobby was distracted from being with her friends. She would definitely call back later on when she sees the missed calls. Sadly, Donna couldn't be farther from the truth. An hour later, Donna received a call that sent shivers down her spine like electricity going through her body. It was from Bobby's boyfriend, and he was calling to ask if she was at home with them. Apparently, Bobby hadn't shown up for their date, and he wondered if she had forgotten or had gotten sick or something. He had been calling her, but she wasn't answering her phone, so he decided to check in with Donna. As soon as she heard it, she froze on the spot and her first wave of panic began. This was very unusual of Bobby. She always answered her phone. Immediately, she called all of Bobby's friends she knew to ask if her daughter was with them, but sadly none of them had heard from her that day, and no one knew where she was. It was at this time that Bobby's parents first began to believe that something horrible had happened to their beloved daughter. Her brother Lee was also shocked and worried, and without any form of hesitation, they decided to report to the police. The very next day, November 21st, 2021, police began searching for Bobbi-Anne, and they were joined by her family, well-wishers and volunteers alike. All anyone could hope for was to find Bobby alive and well, but many others secretly feared the worst. The thorough search began around her home, the bus stop, and the general area. There were so many questions flooding the minds of her parents and police officers who were in on the investigation. What on earth could have happened to Bobbi-Anne? Why had she not even made it for the outing with her boyfriend? She was not one to just run off, so whatever happened must have happened in the bus, on the way to her date. Pamphlets with Bobby's pictures were distributed everywhere, and news of her missing flooded social media, alongside a plea for anyone with any sort of information that might help to please come forward. The pain and torment the McLeod family was going through at the time could be depicted in the social media post of Bobbi-Anne's brother Lee, where he begged anyone who cared to find his sister. He wrote, Please, 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 if you see or hear anything, please tell me. The entire family was desperate and in pain. All they wanted was for Bobby to be found in one piece. Thankfully, in some way, the pamphlets and the pictures of Bobby yielded some positive results. As the police carried out their investigation, the first point of action was to determine where exactly Bobby went missing. So they questioned bus drivers that drove around the area, and one of them had something interesting to say. According to him, Bobbi-Anne never boarded the bus. However, other reports from eyewitnesses suggested that Bobby was at the bus stop waiting for a bus. This only implied one thing: whatever happened to Bobby must have happened at the bus stop. All they needed to do was to find out what and by whom. Armed with this new information, police officers made their way to the bus stop and got on their hands and knees in a bid to find some evidence that might shed light on what happened to Bobby. As the search continued, more evidence indicating potential foul play emerged along the girl's usual route from home to the bus stop, as well as on adjacent streets. By this time, the authorities had seen enough and were able to come to the safe conclusion that Bobby had been kidnapped. They were ready to do all it took to find her, but they needed the help of the public. So they urged anyone with pertinent information to assist the investigation. A substantial number of officers participated in the search efforts, striving to locate Bobbi-Anne promptly. Investigators endeavored to track her cell phone's location, which indicated activity within the city limits. Yet, precise details remained elusive, as all calls were directed to voicemail. The girl's phone eventually came into police possession, provided by the bus driver operating on the route where Bobbi-Anne vanished. It emerged that a resident had discovered the phone and AirPods case at the bus stop the previous evening, handing them to the bus driver upon their arrival the following day, unaware of the unfolding situation. Despite extensive search efforts by police, family and volunteers across the surrounding fields, woodlands and roads, no further leads emerged. Bobbi-Anne's family was saddened by this, and all they could hope and pray for was that she would be found and there'd be an end to their torment. But the very next day, the police authorities announced a shocking discovery. On the fateful evening of November 23rd, an ominous discovery shook the quietude. At precisely 5:09, a chilling announcement by the police echoed through the air.
Earlier today, the body of a woman was located in Bobby-Sand area of the South Hams by police officers, and the discovery was made during searches for missing Bobbi-Anne.
A woman's lifeless body had been uncovered, nestled in the shadowy embrace of a wooded enclave, a mere half-mile distant from the lapping waves of the shore. For the anguished McLeod family, the following hours held the cruel revelation they dreaded most. Confirmation pierced the air like a blade. The body belonged to none other than Bobbi-Anne. A devastating blow reverberated through the circle of loved ones and friends, a collective grief that seemed to darken the very sky above. In the somber aftermath, amidst flickering candlelight near the bus stop where her journey had last been witnessed, Donna McLeod, Bobbi-Anne's mother, found herself engulfed in a whirlwind of sorrow. Tears mingled with heartfelt gratitude as she extended her thanks to those who had gathered in solemn remembrance. With a quavering voice, she spoke her scripted words, each syllable heavy with the weight of loss. "I would like to thank everyone for coming on behalf of the family," she managed to articulate through trembling lips. "It's heartening to see everyone united in these trying times. Though our beloved Bobbi-Anne has been torn from us, her memory will endure. I ask that you lift your candles high in her honor." A profound silence fell upon the assembly, broken only by the soft rustle of candle flames dancing in the night breeze. Bobbi-Anne's brother, Lee McLeod, then stepped forward, bearing an important relic of their shared past, a childhood photograph, capturing a fleeting moment of innocence and joy. His tribute to his cherished sister spoke volumes of their bond, of a lifetime's worth of cherished memories now forever tinged with sorrow. But amidst the outpouring of grief, a shroud of mystery enshrouded Bobbi-Anne's untimely demise. When authorities made the chilling discovery, her body was exposed, stripped of all dignity. Yet the grim findings of the medical examiner yielded a chilling revelation. No evidence of assault was apparent. Instead, the truth emerged in the form of brutal injuries inflicted upon her once vibrant body. 14 lacerations, each a testament to the unfathomable cruelty of fate. But this is where the story gets even more odd and surprising. A shocking twist that led the authorities to find the body in the first place. The twist that put all the pieces of the puzzle together. On that day, November 23rd, something happened that changed everything. A guy showed up at the police station downtown around 1:17 p.m. He wanted to talk to someone, saying he knew something about the missing girl and wanted to help. When a detective arrived, the guy straight up confessed he did it. He admitted to kidnapping and killing Bobbi-Anne, even giving some details. He even pointed out on a map where he dumped her body. Hope fluttered for a moment that maybe she was still alive, but that hope vanished when they found her, naked and face down in the bushes. It was clear she was gone. The guy who confessed turned out to be Cody Ackland, just 24 years old. He seemed like a regular guy, a musician in a local band, but behind the scenes, he was into some dark stuff. He idolized serial killers like Ted Bundy and had a stash of disturbing images on his phone. In the days leading up to Bobbi-Anne's death, Ackland had been looking up weird stuff online, like remote places and weapons. He'd even been browsing for stuff like baseball bats and ski masks on the day he took her. No one had any clue Ackland was capable of something so horrific. He seemed like just another guy until he decided to do something truly awful. And poor Bobbi-Anne was caught in the crossfire, an innocent victim of his twisted fantasies. That evening played out like a nightmare. Bobbi-Anne, who was innocently waiting at the bus stop around 6:15 p.m, caught the attention of Ackland cruising in his Ford Fiesta. He later confessed he had no particular reason to target her, other than a sick desire to act out his twisted plans. It didn't matter who she was. Anyone would have sufficed, according to him. After lurking for a bit, ensuring no one else was around, Ackland approached Bobbi-Anne with a hammer he had bought beforehand. He struck her twice, thinking he'd ended her life. But as he drove away, he saw she was still moving, so he dragged her into his car and drove her to a secluded forest parking lot where he intended to leave her. But when he got there, Bobbi-Anne was still alive. Instead of seeking help, Ackland brutally attacked her again, this time with 12 strikes to the head. Even amazed she was still making sounds, he callously disregarded her suffering. Loading her body into his car, he drove miles away to Bobbi-Anne Beach, where he hid her remains before returning home, seemingly unfazed. The next day, as people searched desperately for Bobbi-Anne, Ackland went about his day as if nothing had happened. He even went out with friends, attended his band's rehearsal and spent the evening at the pub, all while tracking the news about the search on his phone. On November 23rd, Cody Ackland's day began like any other, clocking in at his non-music related job at a car service company. But behind the facade of mundane routine lay a heart teeming with secrets and darkness. During his lunch break, Ackland's actions betrayed no hint of the horrors to come. A simple message to his bandmates in the Rakuda chat room, "Love you guys," and a text to his mother professing his love were the last whispers of normalcy before he stepped into the abyss. With chilling resolve, he made his way to the police station, a beacon of justice where he would irrevocably alter the course of countless lives. There, in a solemn act of confession, Ackland shattered the fragile veil of innocence with the weight of his admission. The repercussions of his heinous act rippled far beyond the confines of his twisted mind. Rakuda, the band he once belonged to, stood on the precipice of dissolution, their music drowned out by the echoes of tragedy. As a tribute to the late teenager Bobby Ann McLeod, they announced their disbandment, a silent moment for a life extinguished too soon. But as the curtain of justice unfolded, revealing a wealth of damning evidence, Ackland's facade of normalcy crumbled. Bobbi-Anne's DNA was found in his car, sneakers were recovered from his home, each piece a damning indictment of his depravity. In the courtroom, amidst a sea of whispered speculations, the truth lay bare. Detective Mike West, unyielding in his pursuit of justice, sought answers to the unanswerable.
He had an intention to kill, but to kill anybody. Not necessarily Bobby, not necessarily a woman.
Yet, Ackland's motives remained shrouded in ambiguity, a maelstrom of darkness that defied comprehension. As the trial unfolded, revelations of Ackland's turbulent past emerged, painting a portrait of a troubled soul adrift in a sea of despair. ADHD, dyslexia, depression, anxiety, each affliction a testament to the inner turmoil that fueled his descent into madness. But in the eyes of the law, there was no reprieve, no solace for the lives he had shattered. Judge Robert Linford, his voice a harbinger of righteous indignation, delivered the final verdict with unwavering resolve. He declared that Ackland's act was determined savagery, deserving of the harshest condemnation. Life imprisonment, 31 years before even the possibility of parole, served as the ultimate reckoning for Cody Ackland. Behind bars, he would confront the demons that haunted his every waking moment. A prisoner of his own making, condemned to dwell in the shadow of his unspeakable crimes.